So if you've heard about some of the recent lawsuits linking medicines like Wegovy or Ozempic to eye disease, then stay tuned because I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know. I'm Tiffany. I'm a physician assistant, also a GLP-1 and wellness advocate. So I like to talk about all things health and wellness on my channel. I also help people get access to GLP-1s when they cannot get them through traditional insurance. So if you're struggling with that, there's links over here in my bio that can help you out. So the way that GLP-1s work is they lower your blood sugar. Now, this is awesome for control of diabetes. However, sometimes rapid changes in blood sugar is not so good for people's eyes. It can actually change how the blood flows to the optic nerve and the retina. So the optic nerve is very, very sensitive to changes in blood flow. And occasionally, very rarely, this can trigger something that's called NAION. It's basically a fancy term for an eye stroke. Now, more research is needed on this, but it is possible that GLP-1s affect growth factor in your eye. Now, this is the same pathway that's involved in wet macular degeneration. Now, this is a disease where the very fragile vessels in the back of your eyes actually leak and cause progressive blindness. It's especially common in the older population. Now, we actually know from previous diabetes studies, not done with GLP-1s, that when you take somebody and their blood sugar is high, and you treat their diabetes and their blood sugar comes down rapidly, it will temporarily mess with their vision because your body does not like quick changes in your sugar. So we've seen this before in other trials. We've seen it with insulin therapy trials. So this is not a new phenomenon. So this is not surprising to me that with GLP-1 treatment, especially in the diabetic population, you take somebody who their blood sugar is not controlled, put them on a GLP-1, their sugar drops rapidly. All of a sudden, if they had diabetic retinopathy, which is the fancy word for damage to the eye because of diabetes, that is going to get worse quickly and suddenly. So this is probably not the GLP-1 itself doing this, it's just changes in blood sugar because your body doesn't like change. So does this mean that GLP-1s are unsafe? No. Eye problems are actually pretty rare, but the issues exist. And so we have to be realistic about if you have pre-existing eye disease or if you're at high risk for eye disease, then we need to be careful about using GLP-1s. If you're on a GLP-1 and you experience sudden changes in your vision, then you need to get seen right away by a certified eye professional. Now, one thing that I will say is that a lot of people who are experiencing eye-related issues from GLP-1s are diabetic or are using the GLP-1 for treatment of diabetes. Now, this does not mean that if you're using it for treatment of weight loss alone, that these eye issues could not pop up sometime later in the future, but a whole lot of these issues have to do with regulation of blood sugar. For the most part, if you're not diabetic, your blood sugar stays in a pretty tight regulation, so you're less likely to develop these eye issues. So there's been lots of lawsuits popping up. I think there's probably gonna be a lot of media attention about these. And so I don't want that to distract away from how amazing GLP-1s are. I still really think GLP-1s are great, and I don't want this to keep people from using them, but I do think there are certain populations of people who need to be careful with them. I do think if you have diabetes, you need to be followed very closely by not only your primary care provider, but you need to be getting an eye exam at least once a year, and sometimes more often than that. So I hope this answers some of your questions about eye-related disease with GLP-1s. If you have more, drop them in the comments.